The slap echoed through the dining room like a gunshot, and before I could even process what had happened, my mother-in-law was screaming inches from my face. "Give me the keys! Now!" My name is Sarah Mitchell, and I'm 32 years old. I work as a graphic designer in downtown Seattle, where the rain seems to match the gray monotony my life had become. I've been married to David for 4 years. 4 years that started with promise and slowly dissolved into something I barely recognized anymore. That Tuesday evening in October started like any other uncomfortable family dinner. The rain hammered against the windows of David's childhood home in the Queen neighborhood, a massive Victorian that his mother, Patricia Holloway, ruled like a personal kingdom. The smell of roasted chicken filled the air, mixing with the tension that always seemed to hover whenever Patricia was in the room. David sat at the head of the table, his phone in one hand, fork in the other, barely acknowledging my presence. His sandy hair was perfectly styled, his designer suit still on from work. He was a real estate attorney at one of Seattle's most prestigious firms, and lately, that seemed to be the only thing that mattered to him. Patricia sat across from me, her sharp blue eyes fixed on me with that familiar look of disapproval she'd perfected over the years. She was in her early 60s, but you'd never guess it from her appearance. Botox, fillers, and a wardrobe that cost more than my car. "Sarah," she began, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "David tells me you're still working at that little design studio. Don't you think it's time you focused on what really matters? Giving us grandchildren." I felt my jaw tighten. We'd had this conversation 100 times. "Patricia, I love my work. David and I have discussed our timeline for..." "Timeline?" She laughed, a harsh sound that cut through the room. "You've been married 4 years. When I was your age, I already had David and was running a household properly." David said nothing. He never did. I took a deep breath, trying to maintain my composure. "We're not ready yet. We want to be financially stable and..." "Financially stable?" Patricia's voice rose. "My son makes 6 figures. What more do you need? Unless..." Her eyes narrowed. "Unless you're spending his money on frivolous things. Like that car you just bought." The car. Here it was, the real issue. If you're finding this story relatable, help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers by clicking that subscribe button. Your support means everything to us. ***. 3 weeks ago, after saving for 2 years from my own salary, I'd finally bought myself a car. Not just any car, a beautiful midnight blue BMW that I'd dreamed about since college. It wasn't about the luxury. It was about proving to myself that I could achieve something independently, something that was mine alone. David had been supportive, or so I thought. But apparently, he'd been complaining to his mother about it. "I bought that car with my own money," I said firmly. "Money I earned." Patricia's face flushed red. "Your money. You're married. Everything is shared. And frankly, that money should have gone toward a down payment on a bigger house, one suitable for the family you should be starting." "Mom, please," David finally spoke, but his voice was weak, placating. "Let's just enjoy dinner." "Enjoy dinner?" Patricia stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the hardwood floor. "I will not enjoy dinner while your wife parades around in a car that costs more than some people's weddings, acting like she's some independent career woman when she should be thinking about this family's future." The room felt suffocating. The rain outside had intensified, and I could see the Seattle skyline through the window, lights blurring through the water streaming down the glass. "Patricia, that's enough," I said, my voice shaking but firm. "I respect you as David's mother, but you don't get to dictate how I spend my money or when we have children." That's when it happened. Patricia moved faster than I'd ever seen her move. She crossed the distance between us in 3 quick steps, and before I could react, her hand connected with my face in a sharp, stinging slap that sent my head jerking to the side. The shock was more powerful than the pain. I sat frozen, my hand slowly rising to touch my burning cheek, as Patricia loomed over me, her face contorted with rage. "You spoiled, ungrateful little girl," she screamed. "That car should have been for this family. Give me the keys." Right now. I'm taking it, and we're selling it to put towards something useful. The world seemed to move in slow motion. I looked at David, expecting him to stand up, to defend me, to do something, anything. He sat there, frozen, his eyes wide but his body motionless. David, I whispered, my voice breaking. He looked away. In that moment, something inside me shattered. Not the part that loved him, that had been cracking for months, but the part that had been making excuses for him, hoping he'd change, believing that the man I married was still in there somewhere. Patricia's hand shot out toward my purse on the side table. The keys. Now. I stood up so abruptly my chair fell backward with a crash. My cheek throbbed, and I could feel tears threatening to spill, but I refused to let them fall. Not here. Not in front of her. No, I said quietly. What did you say? Patricia's voice was venomous. I said no. My voice grew stronger. That car is mine. I earned it. And you have no right to touch me or my property. I grabbed my purse and coat, my hands shaking but determined. As I walked toward the door, Patricia's voice followed me. If you walk out that door, don't think you're welcome back. David, tell her. Tell your wife she's making a huge mistake. I paused at the doorway and looked back one last time. David finally met my eyes, and in that moment, I saw him clearly, weak, controlled, more his mother's son than my husband. David, I said calmly, I'm going home. I'll home. If you want to stay here with your mother, that's your choice. I walked out into the Seattle rain, the cold drops mixing with the tears I'd been holding back. As I sat in my car, my beautiful hard-earned car, and drove away from that Victorian nightmare, I realized something profound. The slap wasn't the worst thing that happened that night. The worst thing was watching my husband do nothing. But as I drove through the rainy Seattle streets toward our apartment in Capitol Hill, another realization began to form. If David wouldn't stand up for me, wouldn't defend me, wouldn't be the partner I deserved, then maybe it was time I stood up for myself in a way he'd never forget. The revenge I was planning wouldn't be violent or illegal. It would be something far more devastating. It would be the truth, delivered in a way that would shake the foundation of everything David thought he had built. We're building a community here, and we'd love for you to be part of it. Click subscribe to help us reach 1,000 subscribers and see how this story unfolds. ***. The rain continued to fall as I pulled into our parking garage, but I wasn't thinking about the weather anymore. I was thinking about the papers I'd been secretly consulting with a lawyer about for the past month. Papers that would give me exactly the fresh start I needed. And tonight, after that slap, after David's silence, after years of being diminished and controlled, I was finally ready to use them. I sat in the parking garage for 20 minutes, the engine off, my hands still gripping the steering wheel like it was the only solid thing in my suddenly tilting world. The sound of rain echoed off the concrete walls, a steady percussion that matched my racing heartbeat. My phone buzzed. David. David *, Sarah, please come back. Mom didn't mean it. She's just worried about us. I stared at the message, reading it 3 times. Not once did he say, I'm sorry. Not once did he acknowledge that his mother had assaulted me. Just excuses. Always excuses. I turned off my phone and finally got out of the car, my legs shaky as I made my way to the elevator. Our apartment was on the 8th floor, a modern 2-bedroom we'd moved into last year. David had wanted something in his mother's neighborhood, but I'd insisted on Capitol Hill, one of the few boundaries I'd managed to set and keep. Inside, the apartment felt different somehow. The minimalist furniture David had chosen, the neutral colors his interior designer had insisted on, it all felt like a stage set for someone else's life. Not mine. Never really mine. I went straight to our home office, a small room that we technically shared but that David rarely used. He preferred working late at his firm, attending networking events, or visiting his mother. I unlocked the bottom drawer of my desk with a small key I kept on my keychain. Inside were the papers. Divorce documents. Financial records. A folder with screenshots of text messages between David and his mother. Messages I discovered accidentally 3 months ago when his iPad synced with his phone while he was in the shower. Messages that revealed just how much Patricia controlled our marriage. Patricia asterisk, you need to talk to Sarah about her spending habits. That design studio barely pays her anything. David asterisk, I know, Mom. I'll handle it. Patricia asterisk, handle it? You're too soft on her. She should have given you children by now. I gave up my career for you, and look how successful you turned out. David asterisk, I'll talk to her about it this weekend. Hundreds of messages like that, going back years. Patricia dictating everything from what we should eat for dinner to questioning why I'd bought new work clothes to suggesting David should hide our credit card statements from me, to teach me about budgeting. And David never disagreed. Never defended me. Just agreed and promised to handle it. If this story is resonating with you, please consider subscribing to our channel. We're working toward 1,000 subscribers, and every single one matters to us. Asterisk asterisk. I laid the documents out on the desk, studying them like a general planning a campaign. My lawyer, Jennifer Chen, was one of the best family law attorneys in Seattle. I'd found her through a coworker whose sister had gone through a difficult divorce. Jennifer was sharp, strategic, and most importantly, she believed me when I told her about Patricia's interference and David's complicity. You have grounds for both emotional abuse and financial manipulation, Jennifer had told me during our last meeting. Those text messages show a pattern of control. And if you can prove that David has been hiding assets or allowing his mother to make financial decisions in your marriage, that strengthens your case even more. I hadn't told Jennifer about tonight yet. But the slap, that changed everything. That was assault, witnessed by David, who had done nothing. That made him complicit. My phone buzzed again. I turned it back on without thinking. David asterisk, I'm on my way home. We need to talk. Of course he was. Patricia had probably ordered him to come fix his mistake of a wife. I heard his key in the lock 15 minutes later. The door opened, and David walked in, his hair damp from the rain, his expression a mixture of frustration and guilt. Sarah, we need to talk about tonight, he began, shrugging off his wet coat. Yes, we do. I was standing in the living room, arms crossed. Your mother assaulted me, David. She slapped me and tried to steal my property. And you sat there and did nothing. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I used to find endearing but now just irritated me. She didn't steal anything, Sarah. She was upset. You know how she gets when she's worried about us. Worried about us? My voice rose. She attacked me because I bought a car with my own money. How is that her business? How is that something that justifies physical violence? She didn't hit you that hard. David. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Are you seriously minimizing this? Your mother slapped me hard enough that my cheek is still red. Look. I turned my face toward him, where the mark of Patricia's hand was still visible. He looked uncomfortable but stood his ground. You provoked her. You knew she had concerns about that car, and you bought it anyway. It was disrespectful to the family. The family. Always the family. By which he meant his mother. I am your family, I said quietly. I'm your wife. Or I'm supposed to be. But tonight, you chose your mother over me. Just like you always do. That's not fair, Sarah. My mother raised me alone after Dad left. She sacrificed everything for me. I owe her. You don't owe her your marriage. I was shouting now, all the years of suppressed frustration pouring out. You don't owe her control over every decision we make. You don't owe her permission to abuse your wife. David's face hardened. Abuse? You're being dramatic. Mom was upset, she reacted badly, but it's not abuse. You're blowing this way out of proportion. I stared at my husband, this man I'd pledged my life to, and saw a stranger. Or maybe I was finally seeing him clearly for the first time. Get out, I said. What? Get out of this apartment. Go back to your mother's house. Clearly, that's where you'd rather be anyway. Sarah, you're being ridiculous. I'm being ridiculous. The words exploded out of me. Your mother slapped me, demanded my property, and you defended her. You minimized it. You blamed me. And now you're telling me I'm being ridiculous for being upset about it. We're sharing real stories about real struggles. If you appreciate honest storytelling, help us grow by clicking the subscribe button. We're aiming for 1,000 subscribers. ***. David looked genuinely confused, as if he couldn't understand why I was so upset. That's when I realized, he really didn't see anything wrong with what had happened. Years of Patricia's manipulation had twisted his perception so completely that he couldn't distinguish between normal family dynamics and abuse. "I'll sleep in the guest room," he finally said. "We can talk about this in the morning when you've calmed down." When I've calmed down. As if my anger was the problem, not his mother's violence and his betrayal. He walked toward the guest bedroom, but I stepped into his path. "No. David. I want you to leave. Actually leave. Go to your mother's house, or a hotel, I don't care. But I need you out of this apartment tonight." His face flushed. "This is my apartment too. You can't just kick me out." "Actually," I said calmly, pulling out my phone and opening the Photos app, "I can. Because I took pictures of my face right after your mother hit me. And I can file a police report for assault and request a temporary restraining order that includes anyone who was present during the assault and failed to intervene." It was a bluff, sort of. I had taken pictures, and I could technically file a report, but I hadn't actually talked to Jennifer about restraining orders yet. But David didn't know that. His eyes widened. "You wouldn't. Try me. You have 30 minutes to pack a bag and leave." We stood there, locked in a silent battle of wills. Finally, David's shoulders slumped. Without another word, he went to our bedroom and started throwing clothes into a duffel bag. 25 minutes later, he was gone. I locked the door behind him and leaned against it, my whole body trembling. I'd done it. I'd actually stood up to him, set a boundary, and enforced it. For the first time in our marriage, I'd put my own well-being first. But the night wasn't over. The revenge I'd been planning. It was time to put it into motion. I went back to the office and pulled out my laptop. I'd been documenting everything for months. The controlling text messages, the financial manipulation, the way Patricia had slowly isolated me from my friends by making David unavailable whenever I had plans, the way she talked David into joint bank accounts where she was listed as a backup signer in case of emergency. I opened a new document and began to write. Not angry rants or emotional outbursts, but a clear, detailed, chronological account of the emotional and financial abuse I'd endured. Every incident. Every text message. Every time David had chosen his mother over me. Every boundary that had been crossed. And then I attached the photos from tonight. My red, swollen cheek, the mark of Patricia's hand clearly visible. I saved the document and attached it to an email. The recipient, David's senior partners at his law firm. The subject line, urgent, pattern of domestic violence involving attorney David Holloway. My finger hovered over the send button. This would ruin him. His reputation, his career, everything he'd built. The firm had a strict ethics code, and any hint of domestic violence, even as a witness who failed to act, could be grounds for termination or suspension. But he'd watched his mother hit me and done nothing. He'd blamed me. He'd chosen her over me, over and over again. I clicked send. The email whooshed away into the digital void, and I sat back in my chair, my heart pounding. There was no taking it back now. By morning, David's bosses would know what kind of man he really was. But I wasn't done yet. Chapter 3. The morning after. I didn't sleep. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Patricia's hand coming toward my face, felt the sting of the slap, heard David's silence. At 6 a.m., I finally gave up on rest and made coffee. My phone had been buzzing intermittently throughout the night, David calling, texting, leaving voicemails I hadn't listened to. I'd blocked Patricia's number immediately after getting home, but David's messages kept coming. David asterisk, Sarah, please answer. We need to talk. David asterisk, my senior partner just called me. What did you do? David asterisk, Sarah, you've ruined my career. How could you? David asterisk, Mom is devastated. She never meant to hurt you. David asterisk, I'm coming over. We need to fix this. I deleted them all without responding. The Seattle morning was gray and drizzly, typical for October. I stood at our apartment window, looking down at the city waking up below. People heading to work, living their normal lives, unaware that mine had imploded in the space of 12 hours. My phone rang. Jennifer Chen, my lawyer. I'd sent her a text at 5 a.m. with a brief summary of what had happened. Sarah. Her voice was professional but warm. I got your message. Tell me everything. I did. I told her about the dinner, the slap, David's reaction, and because I trusted her, about the email I'd sent to his firm. There was a long pause on the other end. Sarah, Jennifer finally said, I understand why you did it. But sending that email without consulting me first, it complicates things. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? In a divorce case, especially one involving allegations of abuse, we want to build a clear, documented case through proper legal channels. Police reports, medical documentation, witness statements. What you did, sending that email directly to his employer, could be seen as retaliation or harassment. But I have proof. The pictures, the text messages. I know, and that's good. But David's lawyers, and trust me, he'll get expensive ones, probably paid for by Patricia. They'll argue that you were vindictive, that you tried to destroy his career out of spite rather than seeking proper legal remedies. If you're invested in hearing how this situation unfolds, please consider subscribing. We're building a community of people who appreciate authentic stories, and we'd love to have you join us on the path to 1,000 subscribers. Asterisk asterisk. I felt sick. Had I just sabotaged my own divorce case? Jennifer, what do I do? First, we file a police report immediately. Today, we document the assault properly. Then we get you to a doctor to document any physical evidence, bruising, swelling, anything. We build a legitimate case through the right channels. The email is done, we can't undo it, so now we work around it. Okay, I said, my voice shaky. Okay, I can do that. Sarah, I also need to tell you something else. If David's firm takes this seriously, they'll launch an investigation. They'll interview you, him, possibly Patricia. They'll want to see evidence. This is going to get messy before it gets better. I know. And there's one more thing you need to prepare for. Patricia has money and connections. If she feels her son is being threatened, she'll come at you with everything she's got. As if on cue, there was a loud pounding on my apartment door. Jennifer, someone's at my door. Don't answer it. Not until we know who it is. I crept to the door and looked through the peephole. My heart sank. Patricia Holloway stood in the hallway, her perfectly styled hair slightly disheveled, her designer coat wrinkled. But it was her face that shocked me. Red, swollen, makeup smeared. She'd been crying. Sarah, she shouted through the door. Sarah, I know you're in there. We need to talk. It's Patricia, I whispered into the phone. Do not open that door, Jennifer said firmly. In fact, start recording on your phone. Keep me on the line, but switch to video and record everything she says. I did as instructed, propping my phone up on the entry table where it could capture audio while I held my other phone up to video through the peephole. Sarah. Patricia's voice was shrill. You've destroyed my son's life. His bosses called him at 6 a.m. They're launching an ethics investigation. He could lose his license to practice law. Mrs. Holloway, I called through the door, my voice steady despite my shaking hands. I'm not going to open this door. If you want to talk, you can do so through lawyers. Lawyers. She laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. You ungrateful little witch. I welcomed you into our family. I treated you like a daughter. And this is how you repay me. By trying to ruin David's career. You slapped me. I shouted back, surprised by the strength in my own voice. You assaulted me and tried to steal my property. Your son stood by and did nothing. I barely touched you. You're being dramatic, just like always. You've always been selfish, always putting yourself first. David deserves better than a wife who cares more about a stupid car than about family. I was recording every word. Mrs. Holloway, I'm going to call the police if you don't leave right now. You're harassing me. Harassing you? Harassing you. Her voice reached a fever pitch. You're the one who sent libelous emails to my son's employers. You're the one who's trying to destroy him. I should sue you for defamation. I should. She dissolved into tears, loud, heaving sobs that echoed in the hallway. Through the peephole, I could see her leaning against the wall, her whole body shaking. For a moment, just a moment, I felt a twinge of guilt. This woman, however toxic, was watching her son's career potentially crumble. She was scared. But then I remembered the feeling of her hand across my face. The way David had sat there, frozen. The years of manipulation and control. Mrs. Holloway, I said more quietly, please leave. This isn't helping anyone. She looked up at the door, her mascara running down her face. You've broken my son's heart. You've destroyed our family. I hope you're happy. I'm not happy, I said honestly. But I'm finally free. She stared at the door for another long moment, then slowly walked away. I watched through the peephole until she disappeared into the elevator. I picked up the phone with Jennifer still on the line. Did you get all that? Every word, Jennifer said. That's going to be very useful. She essentially admitted to the assault and then harassed you at your home. Sarah, I know this is hard, but you're doing the right thing. You're protecting yourself. After hanging up with Jennifer, I got ready to go to the police station. I chose my clothes carefully, professional but not flashy, conservative enough to be taken seriously. I covered the bruise on my face with minimal makeup, enough to be presentable but not enough to hide it completely. The police station in Capitol Hill was busier than I expected for a Wednesday morning. I waited for 45 minutes before a detective called me into an interview room. A small, windowless space with fluorescent lights and a table bolted to the floor. Detective Sarah Morrison was in her 50s, with gray-streaked hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and kind eyes that had clearly seen too much. She listened to my story without interruption, taking notes, occasionally asking for clarification. Ms. Mitchell, she said when I finished, I want you to understand that filing a police report for assault is serious. It means your mother-in-law could be arrested and charged. It means this becomes part of the public record. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Patricia's tears in the hallway, about David's frantic messages, about the years I'd spent trying to make peace, trying to fit into their family, trying to be enough. Yes, I said firmly. I'm prepared. Detective Morrison nodded. Okay. Let me take photos of your injuries, and then we'll complete the report. 2 hours later, I walked out of the police station with a case number and a copy of my report. The bruise on my face had been photographed from multiple angles, my statement had been recorded, and Detective Morrison had assured me that someone would follow up within 72 hours. Your support helps us share important stories like this one. Please take a moment to click subscribe. We're working our way to 1,000 subscribers, and every single one brings us closer to that goal. Asterisk asterisk. I was exhausted, but I had one more stop to make. The medical clinic in Capitol Hill had a walk-in urgent care center. I needed documentation of my injuries from a medical professional, not just the police photos. Dr. Rachel Kim was young, probably only a few years older than me, with a gentle manner that made it easy to tell her what had happened. She examined my face, took more photos from my medical record, and asked me a series of questions about my safety. Ms. Mitchell, do you feel safe going home tonight? I considered the question carefully. David was gone. Patricia didn't have a key to our apartment. Yes, I said. I feel safe. Do you have somewhere else you can stay if that changes? Friends, family. I thought about my parents in Portland, 3 hours south. My best friend Amy, who lived in Ballard. I'd been so isolated by my marriage that I'd let those relationships deteriorate, but I knew they'd take me in if I asked. Yes, I have options. Dr. Kim nodded, making notes in her tablet. I'm going to give you information on domestic violence resources, even though this wasn't intimate partner violence. Abuse is abuse, and you deserve support. There are counselors, support groups, legal aid services. I have a lawyer, I said. A good one. That's excellent. But please, take these anyway. Sometimes it helps to talk to people who've been through similar situations. She handed me a folder full of brochures and resource lists. I took them, knowing I probably wouldn't call most of the numbers, but grateful for the kindness anyway. By the time I got back to my apartment, it was early afternoon. I'd been running on adrenaline for nearly 24 hours, and the crash was beginning. I made myself a sandwich I couldn't taste and sat on the couch, staring at my phone. Part of me wanted to check David's messages, to see what he was saying, to engage with him. But I knew that would only make things worse. Instead, I opened my email and found the one I'd been waiting for. From Harold Greenberg, Senior Partner, Holloway and Associates. Subject: Urgent. Pattern of domestic violence involving attorney David Holloway. Ms. Mitchell. Thank you for bringing this matter to our attention. Please be advised that we take allegations of this nature extremely seriously. We have placed Mr. Holloway on administrative leave pending an internal investigation. ***. We would like to schedule an interview with you at your earliest convenience. Please contact my assistant to arrange a time. ***. Respectfully. Harold Greenberg. It was real. It was actually happening. David's career, the thing he valued more than our marriage, the thing he'd sacrificed me for, was hanging by a thread. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt hollow. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Unknown asterisk, you bitch. You've destroyed him. I'll make sure you regret this. Patricia had apparently gotten a new phone, or was using someone else's. I took a screenshot and sent it directly to Jennifer with a message: more harassment. Then I blocked that number too. I was learning that standing up for yourself, that taking revenge, that finally saying, enough. It wasn't clean or satisfying like in the movies. It was messy and complicated and exhausting. But it was also necessary. That night, alone in my apartment for the first time in 4 years, I slept better than I had in months. The next 2 weeks were a blur of meetings, interviews, and paperwork. David's law firm took my allegations seriously, more seriously than I'd expected. Harold Greenberg, the senior partner, was a bulldog of a man in his late 60s who'd built his reputation on integrity and ethics. The idea that one of his attorneys might have witnessed assault and done nothing clearly offended him on a fundamental level. I met with him in his downtown office on a rainy Friday afternoon, the Seattle skyline obscured by fog outside his window. Jennifer came with me, which turned out to be crucial. Ms. Mitchell, Greenberg began, his hands folded on his mahogany desk. I've reviewed your email and the materials you've sent. I've also spoken with David. I need to understand something. Why did you come to us rather than simply filing for divorce and pursuing criminal charges? I glanced at Jennifer, who nodded for me to answer. Because David's career is important to him, I said carefully. More important than I ever was. I wanted him to understand that actions have consequences. That letting his mother control our marriage, that standing by while she assaulted me, those choices have real repercussions. Greenberg studied me for a long moment. You wanted to hurt him where it matters most. I wanted justice, I corrected. I wanted someone to take this seriously. The police take days to follow up on assault reports. Civil court takes months, sometimes years. But you could act immediately. And you did. He leaned back in his chair. You're not wrong. But I need you to understand something, Ms. Mitchell. Our investigation isn't about punishing David for being a bad husband. It's about determining whether he violated our firm's ethics code, which requires attorneys to report crimes and to maintain moral character consistent with the practice of law. Standing by while someone commits assault seems like a pretty clear violation, Jennifer interjected. Perhaps, Greenberg conceded. But it's complicated. David wasn't the perpetrator. He was a witness who failed to act. The law doesn't require bystanders to intervene in most situations. Our ethics code is different, but it's also not black and white. My heart sank. So you might not fire him? I didn't say that, Greenberg said firmly. David has been placed on administrative leave pending our investigation. We're interviewing everyone who was present that night, which means we need to speak with Patricia Holloway as well. And frankly, her behavior since then, harassing you at your home, sending threatening messages, that doesn't reflect well on David's judgment in maintaining relationships that could compromise his professional integrity. If you're following Sarah's journey and want to see how this story continues to unfold, please hit that subscribe button. We're a community working toward 1,000 subscribers, and your support means we can keep sharing these important stories. After the meeting with Greenberg, Jennifer and I grabbed coffee at a shop across from the Columbia Tower. The rain had let up, and we sat by the window watching people hurry past with their umbrellas and briefcases. That went better than I expected, Jennifer said, stirring sugar into her latte. Greenberg is taking this seriously. That's good for our divorce case. But he might not fire David. Maybe not. But the investigation itself is damaging. Other firms will hear about it. Clients will have concerns. Even if David keeps his job, his reputation is tarnished. She paused. Sarah, I need to ask you something. How far are you willing to take this? What do you mean? The divorce, the police report, the firm investigation, that's all moving forward. But there's another avenue we haven't discussed. You could press criminal charges against Patricia. Assault is a crime. With your photos, your medical records, Detective Morrison's report, and David's firm potentially confirming his failure to intervene, the prosecutor's office would likely take the case. I stared out the window, watching a young couple laughing together as they shared an umbrella. Had David and I ever been that happy? I couldn't remember anymore. What would happen if I did? I asked. Patricia would be arrested and formally charged. She'd have to hire a criminal defense attorney. There'd be a trial unless she pleads guilty. If convicted, she could face fines, potentially even jail time for a first-degree assault, though realistically she'd probably get probation and community service. David would hate me forever. Jennifer looked at me carefully. Sarah, do you still care what David thinks? Did I? That was the question I'd been avoiding. Part of me still loved the man I'd married, or the man I'd thought I was marrying. But that man had never really existed. The real David was weak, controlled by his mother, more concerned with appearances than with protecting his wife. No, I finally said. I don't think I do anymore. Then let's pursue #chapter 4. The investigation continued. Then let's pursue criminal charges, Jennifer said. Not out of spite, but because what Patricia did was illegal. And more importantly, because you deserve justice. I nodded slowly. Okay. Let's do it. Over the next few days, Detective Morrison reached out to inform me that the prosecutor's office had reviewed my case and decided to move forward with criminal charges against Patricia Holloway. The news came through a phone call on a Tuesday morning while I was at work, trying to focus on a logo redesign for a local coffee chain. Ms. Mitchell, Detective Morrison's voice was professional but warm. I wanted to let you know that we've issued a warrant for Patricia Holloway's arrest. She'll be taken into custody within the next 48 hours. You should be aware that this will become public record, and given your husband's position at his law firm, there may be media interest. Media interest. I hadn't thought about that. The idea of my face, my story, being splashed across local news made my stomach churn. What should I do if reporters contact me? I asked. Refer them to your attorney. Don't speak to anyone about the case. And Ms. Mitchell? You might want to consider staying with friends or family for a few days. Things could get intense. I took her advice. That evening, I drove 3 hours south to Portland to stay with my parents. I hadn't told them much about what was happening, just that David and I were having problems and I needed space. But when I showed up at their door in the suburbs of Lake Oswego, my mother took one look at my face and knew it was serious. Sarah, sweetheart, what happened? Mom pulled me into a hug before I'd even made it through the door. She was 58, with graying blonde hair and warm brown eyes that had seen me through every crisis of my life. Dad appeared from his study, a tall man with silver hair and reading glasses perched on his nose. He'd been a high school principal for 30 years before retiring, and he had that quiet authority that made people instinctively respect him. We sat in their living room, the same comfortable space where I'd spent countless hours growing up, and I told them everything. The years of Patricia's control, David's weakness, the dinner, the slap, everything I'd done since. Mom cried. Dad's jaw tightened with barely controlled anger. That woman hit you, Dad said, his voice dangerously quiet. And David just sat there? He blamed me, I said. He said I provoked her by buying the car. Jesus Christ, Dad muttered, running a hand through his hair. Sarah, I never liked him. I'm sorry, but I have to say it now. From the moment you brought him home, I knew he was too attached to his mother. But you seemed happy, and we thought maybe we were wrong. You weren't wrong, I said quietly. We're grateful you're sticking with Sarah's story. If you haven't already, please subscribe to help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Your support makes these stories possible. ***. Mom reached over and took my hand. What can we do? How can we help? Just let me stay here for a few days. Until things calm down. You can stay as long as you need, Dad said firmly. Forever, if necessary. This is your home. That night, lying in my childhood bedroom with its faded posters and old bookshelves, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Safe. Protected. Like someone was actually on my side. My phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. Jennifer ***. Patricia was arrested this morning. She posted bail within 2 hours. Her arraignment is scheduled for next Monday. Are you still in Portland? Me ***. Yes. Do I need to be there? Jennifer ***. No. But be prepared, this is going to get uglier before it gets better. She was right. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and dozens of text messages. 3 local news outlets had gotten wind of the story. Prominent attorney's mother arrested for assault, read one headline. Family drama rocks Seattle law firm, proclaimed another. But it was the third headline that made my blood run cold. Attorney's wife files false assault charges to gain divorce advantage. I clicked on the article with shaking hands. It was from a smaller tabloid-style news blog, and the piece was clearly biased. It painted me as a vindictive wife who'd fabricated assault charges to win a divorce settlement, and it heavily quoted sources close to the Holloway family, who claimed Patricia had barely touched me and that I was known for being dramatic and manipulative. Mom! I called out, my voice cracking. Dad! They both rushed into my room. I showed them the article. This is defamation, Dad said immediately. They're calling you a liar in print. Jennifer needs to see this, Mom added, always practical. I forwarded the article to Jennifer, who called me back within minutes. Sarah, do not respond to this. Do not engage with any media. This is Patricia's doing. She's trying to control the narrative before the arraignment. We'll issue a statement through my office clarifying the facts, and if necessary, we'll pursue defamation charges against whoever leaked false information to that blogger. But people are going to believe it, I said, feeling tears threatening. Everyone's going to think I'm lying. No, they won't. We have medical records, police reports, photographs, and witness statements. The truth is on our side. Patricia is panicking, and this is a desperate move. Let her make mistakes. Over the next few days, the media circus intensified. 2 legitimate news outlets ran balanced pieces that included statements from both sides. Jennifer's official statement was clear and damning. Ms. Mitchell was the victim of an unprovoked assault by Patricia Holloway. We have substantial evidence supporting this claim, including medical documentation, police reports, and witness accounts. Any suggestion that Ms. Mitchell fabricated these allegations is false and potentially libelous. David broke his silence with a public statement that his lawyer released. This is a painful family matter that has been blown out of proportion. My mother is a good woman who made a mistake in a moment of stress. My wife and I are working through our marital issues privately, and I ask that everyone respect our privacy during this difficult time. Working through our issues privately. As if we were going to couples counseling instead of heading toward divorce court. I wanted to scream. I wanted to respond, to tell the world what a coward he was. But Jennifer's advice was clear. Stay silent, let the legal process work. Patricia's arraignment was on Monday, as scheduled. I didn't attend, Jennifer advised against it, saying my presence would only fuel media attention. But she called me afterward with an update. Patricia pleaded not guilty, Jennifer said. Her attorney is Marcus Sullivan, very expensive, very aggressive defense attorney. He's already filed motions to dismiss based on insufficient evidence, which is ridiculous given what we have, but it's a standard tactic. The judge set a trial date for January. January? That's 3 months away. I know. But that's actually good for us. It gives us time to build an airtight case for the divorce. Speaking of which, we need to talk about your divorce petition. Are you ready to file? I took a deep breath. Yes. I'm ready. Okay. I'll have the papers drawn up this week. We're filing on grounds of irreconcilable differences, but we're also including evidence of emotional abuse and David's failure to protect you from his mother's interference in your marriage. We're asking for an equitable division of assets, which means you get half of everything acquired during the marriage. What about the car? I asked. The one Patricia tried to take? The car was purchased with your separate income before any of this happened, so it's yours. But Sarah, there's something else we need to discuss. David's income is substantially higher than yours. In Washington state, you might be entitled to spousal support. I don't want his money, I said immediately. I understand the sentiment, but think practically. You've been married 4 years. You've made career sacrifices to accommodate his schedule and his mother's demands. You deserve to be compensated for that. She was right, but it felt wrong somehow. Like taking his money would make me just as bad as Patricia, who'd always been obsessed with David's income. If you're invested in Sarah's journey toward justice and independence, please consider subscribing. We're building toward 1,000 subscribers, and each one helps us continue sharing these important stories. ***. Let me think about it, I said. I stayed in Portland for a full week, helping Mom with her garden, having long dinners with Dad where we talked about everything except my failing marriage, and slowly beginning to feel like myself again. On Friday night, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Sarah. David's voice was thick, like he'd been drinking. Sarah, please. We need to talk. David, you shouldn't be calling me. Everything needs to go through our lawyers. Fuck the lawyers. He was definitely drunk. This is insane, Sarah. My career is destroyed. My mother is facing criminal charges. Our marriage is over. All because you couldn't just apologize and move on from one stupid argument. I felt anger surge through me, hot and cleansing. One stupid argument. David, your mother assaulted me. She hit me. And you sat there and did nothing. She barely touched you. You've turned this into some huge drama when it was just a family disagreement that got out of hand. A family disagreement. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Your mother has controlled every aspect of our marriage since day one. When we have sex, when we eat, what we spend money on, whether I can have a career, she's made every major decision, and you've let her. And when she finally crossed the line into physical violence, you still chose her over me. She's my mother, David shouted. She raised me alone. She sacrificed everything for me. What was I supposed to do? Turn my back on her? You were supposed to protect your wife. I was shouting now too, years of suppressed rage finally erupting. You were supposed to stand up for me. You were supposed to be my partner, not her puppet. I loved you, he said, and now he was crying. I still love you. But you've destroyed everything. My job, my relationship with my mother, our marriage. All destroyed because you couldn't just be reasonable. Reasonable, I repeated softly. David, do you hear yourself? You're still blaming me. Even now, after everything, you think this is my fault. Who else's fault is it? You sent that email to my firm. You pressed charges against my mother. You're the one who escalated everything. I'm the one who finally stood up for myself, I said. I'm sorry you can't see the difference. I hung up and immediately blocked his number. Then I called Jennifer and told her about the call. He's spiraling, she said. This is actually good for us. It shows he's not in control, that he's making poor decisions. If he calls again from a different number, don't answer. Let him dig his own grave. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the conversation, David's words echoing in my head. I loved you. I still love you. Did he? Or did he just love the idea of me, the compliant wife who made him look good, who didn't cause problems, who accepted his mother's interference without complaint? I got out of bed and went downstairs. Dad was in the kitchen, making tea. Can't sleep either, he asked, pulling out a second mug. David called, I said, sitting at the kitchen table. He's drunk and angry and blaming me for everything. Dad poured the tea and sat down across from me. Sarah, I'm going to tell you something I probably should have said years ago. That man was never good enough for you. Not because he didn't make enough money or come from the right family, but because he never saw you. The real you. He saw a beautiful, talented, kind woman who he could shape into what his mother wanted. And you let him because you loved him. Tears spilled down my cheeks. I did love him. I really did. I know, sweetheart. But love isn't enough. Not when the other person doesn't respect you. Not when they choose their mother over you every single time. I keep wondering if I did the right thing, I admitted. Sending that email, pressing charges. Maybe I went too far. Maybe I should have just filed for divorce quietly and moved on. Dad reached across the table and took my hand. Sarah, listen to me. What Patricia did was assault. What David did was enable abuse. You had every right to seek justice through every legal channel available. Don't let them make you doubt that. But his career. His career is his responsibility, not yours. He chose to witness a crime and do nothing. He chose to prioritize his mother's feelings over your safety. Those choices have consequences. That's on him, not you. We sat in the quiet kitchen, drinking tea and watching the rain streak down the windows. And for the first time since this all began, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I had done the right thing. I returned to Seattle the following Monday, steeling myself for whatever came next. My apartment felt different now, emptier without David's presence, but also cleaner somehow, like a space that was finally mine alone. Jennifer had scheduled a meeting for Tuesday morning to go over the divorce petition before filing. I arrived at her office in downtown Seattle 15 minutes early, clutching a coffee and mentally preparing for what was ahead. Sarah, Jennifer greeted me with a warm smile. Come in. We have a lot to cover. She spread out the divorce papers on her conference table, walking me through each section. Division of assets, custody arrangements, not applicable in our case. Spousal support, and most importantly, the grounds for divorce. I've included evidence of emotional abuse and financial manipulation, Jennifer explained. The text messages between David and Patricia, the joint bank account where she was listed as a co-signer without your knowledge, the pattern of isolation from your friends and family. It's all here. Will the judge care about that stuff? I asked. I thought Washington was a no-fault divorce state. It is, which means we don't need to prove wrongdoing to get divorced. But the evidence of abuse and manipulation is relevant to asset division and spousal support. It shows that the marriage broke down due to David's failure to maintain healthy boundaries with his mother, which affected your well-being and your ability to earn income. I nodded, scanning the documents. Everything looked professional, thorough, devastating. This was real. My marriage was really ending. There's one more thing, Jennifer said, pulling out another folder. During the discovery process for Patricia's criminal trial, we obtained something interesting. Patricia's phone records and text messages. Her lawyer fought it, but the prosecutor's office subpoenaed them as evidence of her state of mind and potential pattern of behavior. She opened the folder and pulled out several printed pages of text messages. Sarah, you need to see these. I took the pages and started reading. They were messages between Patricia and David, dating back over a year, long before the dinner incident. Patricia asterisk. Has Sarah agreed to the house in Queen and yet? David asterisk. Not yet, Mom. She still wants to stay in Capitol Hill. Patricia asterisk. David, you need to put your foot down. Capitol Hill isn't appropriate for raising a family. I found a beautiful house 2 blocks from me. Push her harder on this. David asterisk. I'll try. Patricia asterisk. Don't try. Do it. You're the husband. She needs to respect your decisions. I flipped to the next page, my hands shaking. Patricia asterisk. I noticed Sarah wore pants to church again. Has she gained weight? David asterisk. Mom, please. Patricia asterisk. I'm just concerned. You don't want a wife who lets herself go. Maybe suggest she join my gym? I could set up a training session. David asterisk. I'll mention it. Another page. Patricia asterisk. David, we need to talk about Sarah's job. That design studio is a waste of time. She should be home, preparing to be a mother. Can't you convince her to quit? David asterisk. She loves her job, Mom. Patricia asterisk. Love doesn't pay the bills or raise children. You need to think about your future, not her hobbies. The messages went on and on. Patricia criticizing my clothes, my weight, my career, my friends, my spending habits. And David always promised to talk to me about it, to handle it, but he never pushed back. Never defended me. Just agreed to be his mother's messenger. But the worst ones were near the end, dated just 2 weeks before the dinner. Patricia asterisk. I saw Sarah's Instagram. She's posting about that ridiculous car she wants to buy. David, you cannot let this happen. That money needs to go toward a house near me. A proper house for my grandchildren. David asterisk. She's been saving for 2 years, Mom. It's her money. Patricia asterisk. There's no her money in a marriage. It's family money. I didn't raise you to be controlled by a selfish woman. You need to stop this car purchase. Immediately. David asterisk. I don't know how, Mom. She's already talked to the dealer. Patricia asterisk. Then we'll deal with it together. Come to dinner on the 15th. Bring Sarah. I'll handle this. I looked up at Jennifer, feeling sick. She planned it. The dinner, the confrontation, she planned to take my car keys. That's what it looks like, Jennifer said grimly. And there's more. She pulled out another set of messages, these dated after the incident. Patricia asterisk. David, you need to get Sarah under control. She's making us look terrible. David asterisk. Mom, she filed a police report. This is serious. Patricia asterisk. It's only serious if we let it be. Call your lawyer. We'll say she's mentally unstable, that she's always been dramatic. We'll make her look like the problem. David asterisk. I don't think that's going to work. Patricia asterisk. Of course it will work. I have connections. I'll call Marcus Sullivan. Remember him from the club? Best defense attorney in Seattle. He'll make this all go away. David asterisk. What about the email she sent to my firm? Patricia asterisk. We'll deal with that too. Tell them she's vindictive, that she's trying to ruin you out of spite. They'll understand. Men always understand when wives go crazy. I felt tears burning behind my eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness, they were tears of rage. She tried to destroy me, I whispered. She actually tried to make everyone think I was crazy. Yes, Jennifer said. But she failed. Because you had evidence. You documented everything. You were strategic and careful, and you didn't let them gaslight you into thinking you were overreacting. We're so glad you're following Sarah's story. If you believe in the importance of standing up against manipulation and abuse, please subscribe to our channel. Every subscriber brings us closer to our goal of 1,000 and helps us share more stories like this. Asterisk asterisk. Can we use these messages in the divorce? I asked. Absolutely. They demonstrate a pattern of manipulation and control that directly impacted your marriage. They show that David was more loyal to his mother than to you, and that Patricia actively worked to undermine your autonomy and your relationship. I looked at the messages again, reading Patricia's words, David's weak responses. Part of me wanted to feel sorry for him. He'd been raised by this woman, manipulated his whole life. But another part of me, the part that had been growing stronger every day since that slap, felt only contempt. He was a grown man. He'd made choices. And those choices had led us here. File the papers, I said. Today. I want this done. Jennifer nodded. I'll have them filed by end of business today. David will be served within 48 hours. Sarah, are you prepared for his reaction? I don't care about his reaction anymore, I said, and I meant it. I just want to be free. After leaving Jennifer's office, I drove to my design studio in Fremont. I'd barely been to work since the incident, making excuses about being sick, but I knew I needed to get back to my life. My real life, the one that existed outside of David and Patricia's drama. My boss, Marcus Chen, no relation to Jennifer, was understanding when I finally told him an abbreviated version of what had happened. Marcus was in his 40s, openly gay, and had been through a brutal divorce himself 3 years earlier. Take all the time you need, he said, leaning against my desk in the small studio we shared with 3 other designers. But honestly, getting back to work might help. Give you something normal to focus on. He was right. I threw myself into projects, a rebranding for a local brewery, a website design for a non-profit, a series of illustrations for a children's book. The work was absorbing, creative, mine. It reminded me that I had value beyond being David's wife or Patricia's daughter-in-law. 2 days later, Jennifer called. David's been served. His lawyer called me within an hour. They want to negotiate. Negotiate what? Everything. Asset division, spousal support, the allegations of abuse. They're offering you a settlement. You get half the value of your shared assets, which comes out to about $180,000, plus your car, and they'll agree to the divorce being finalized within 60 days. What's the catch? You have to drop the emotional abuse allegations and sign an NDA prohibiting you from speaking publicly about the marriage or Patricia. I laughed, harsh and bitter. So they want to buy my silence. Essentially, yes. It's a substantial amount of money, Sarah. Enough to start over completely. And the criminal case against Patricia? That's separate. The NDA can't prevent you from cooperating with the prosecutor's office. That would be illegal. But it would prevent you from talking to media, writing about it on social media, or discussing the details with anyone except your immediate family and legal team. I thought about it carefully. $180,000 was a lot of money. I could pay off my student loans, put a down payment on my own place, build a cushion while I figured out my next steps. But signing an NDA felt like letting them win, like admitting that what they did wasn't that bad after all. What do you recommend? I asked Jennifer. Honestly, I think you should counteroffer. Ask for $250,000, full ownership of the car with no questions, and a revised NDA that allows you to speak about your experience in general terms without using their names. If they're offering $180,000 right out of the gate, they're scared. Push harder. Do it, I said. Counter with your terms. The negotiation dance went on for another week. David's lawyer pushed back. We pushed harder. Finally, they agreed, $225,000, the car, and an NDA that prohibited me from using David or Patricia's names in any public discussion, but allowed me to share my experience with domestic abuse and controlling in-laws in general terms. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. Sign it, I told Jennifer. Let's end this. The papers were signed on a Friday afternoon in Jennifer's conference room. David wasn't there. His lawyer had insisted on separate signings. Just as well. I didn't want to see him anyway. I walked out of that office with a cashier's check for $225,000, full title to my car, and the knowledge that in 60 days, I would be officially divorced and free. But the story wasn't over yet. Patricia's criminal trial was still looming, and I knew that would be the final chapter in this nightmare, the moment when she'd finally face real consequences for her actions. November in Seattle was cold and gray, the kind of weather that seeps into your bones and makes you want to hibernate. But I didn't have the luxury of hiding. Patricia's trial was scheduled for mid-January, and the prosecutor's office needed me to prepare. Assistant District Attorney Rachel Torres was a fierce woman in her 30s with dark hair pulled into a severe bun and an intensity that reminded me of a bird of prey. We met in her office in the King County Courthouse, a building that smelled like old paper and stale coffee. Ms. Mitchell, Rachel began, spreading out a file that I recognized as my case. I'm going to be honest with you. Assault cases where the victim and perpetrator are family members are always challenging. Defense attorneys play on jury sympathy. It was just a family argument that got out of hand, that sort of thing. We need to make sure you're prepared for what Marcus Sullivan is going to throw at you. I'm ready, I said, though I wasn't sure I was. Sullivan is going to paint you as vindictive. He'll say you fabricated or exaggerated the assault to gain advantage in your divorce. He'll bring up the email you sent to David's firm and suggest you're manipulative and vengeful. But I have evidence. Photos, medical records. Which Sullivan will claim are misleading. A red mark that could have come from anything. Emotional testimony that doesn't match the physical evidence. He's good at creating reasonable doubt. Rachel leaned forward. But here's what he doesn't know we have. Those text messages between Patricia and David. The ones showing she planned the confrontation. The ones where she discussed making you look mentally unstable. That's premeditation, and it's going to destroy her defense. Over the next few weeks, I met with Rachel multiple times. We did mock cross-examinations where she played Sullivan, asking me aggressive questions designed to rattle me. Ms. Mitchell, isn't it true that you were angry with your mother-in-law before the alleged incident? I was frustrated with her interference in my marriage, yes. And you bought an expensive car despite knowing she disapproved? I bought a car with money I earned. Her approval wasn't required. But you knew it would upset her, didn't you? You wanted to provoke a reaction. I wanted to make a purchase with my own money. I didn't expect to be assaulted for it. Rachel would stop and give me notes. Good answer, but don't sound defensive. You're the victim here. Own that. Make the jury understand that nothing you did justified violence. If you're standing with Sarah through this difficult process, please show your support by subscribing. We're working toward 1,000 subscribers, and your subscription helps us continue sharing stories of courage and resilience. ***. December brought an unexpected development. David called Jennifer's office requesting a meeting with me, in person. Jennifer advised against it, but curiosity got the better of me. I'll be there with you, Jennifer said. We'll meet in a neutral location, and the conversation will be recorded. If you feel uncomfortable at any point, we leave. We met at a coffee shop in Capitol Hill, neutral territory where David and I had had our first date 5 years earlier. The irony wasn't lost on me. David looked terrible. He'd lost weight, his suit hung loosely on his frame, and there were dark circles under his eyes. He sat across from me, Jennifer beside me like a protective guardian, and for a long moment, nobody spoke. "Sarah," he finally said, his voice hoarse, "I needed to see you. To talk to you without lawyers filtering everything." "We have lawyers for a reason," I said coolly. "I know. I just..." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture that used to make my heart soften but now just annoyed me. "I've been in therapy since all this happened, and my therapist has been helping me see things I couldn't see before." "Good for you," I said, meaning it to sound sarcastic, but it came out tired instead. "My mom is sick, Sarah. Not physically, but emotionally, psychologically. She has narcissistic personality disorder." The therapist explained it to me, how she's been controlling my whole life, how she can't handle anyone challenging her authority, how she's destroyed every relationship I've ever had. I felt a flicker of something, not sympathy exactly, but understanding. "David, I could have told you that years ago. I know. God, I know. And I'm so sorry I didn't listen. I'm sorry I didn't protect you. I'm sorry I let her hurt you." His eyes were wet with tears. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve it. But I needed you to know that I see it now. I see how badly I failed you." Jennifer touched my arm lightly, a silent reminder that I didn't have to respond if I didn't want to. But I found myself wanting to speak. "David, the fact that Patricia has a personality disorder doesn't excuse what she did. And it definitely doesn't excuse what you didn't do. You're a grown man. You made choices. You chose her over me, every single time." "I did," he admitted. "And I hate myself for it." "I don't hate you," I said, surprising myself with the truth of it. "But I can't be with someone who won't stand up for me. Someone who won't put our marriage first." "I know. The divorce. I'm not fighting it anymore. You deserve better than what I gave you." He paused. "But Sarah, the trial. Mom's trial. I'm asking you, begging you, please don't testify." And there it was. The real reason for this meeting. "Are you serious right now?" Jennifer interjected before I could respond. "Your mother assaulted my client, and you're asking her not to hold her accountable?" "She's going to go to jail," David said desperately. "Sullivan says if Sarah testifies with all that evidence, with those text messages, Mom could get actual jail time. She's 63 years old. She won't survive prison." "She should have thought about that before she hit me," I said flatly. "Sarah, please. She's sick. She needs treatment, not punishment. If you don't testify, the prosecutor's case falls apart. They'll offer a plea deal, probation, mandatory therapy, community service. She gets help instead of prison." I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. "I can't believe you. After everything, after therapy, after supposedly seeing it now, you're still choosing her. You're still asking me to sacrifice myself to protect her. That's not what I'm. That's exactly what you're doing." I was shouting now, and people in the coffee shop were staring. I didn't care. "Your mother assaulted me, David. She slapped me in the face, tried to steal my property, and then launched a campaign to destroy my reputation. And you sat there and watched. And now you want me to let her get away with it because she's sick? Because she might face consequences." "She's my mother," he said weakly. "And I was your wife." Tears were streaming down my face now. "I was supposed to be your partner, your family, the person you protected. But I never was I? It was always her. Always." I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. Jennifer followed, throwing money on the table for our untouched coffees. In the parking lot, I leaned against my car, shaking with rage and grief. "That was incredibly brave," Jennifer said quietly. "I don't feel brave. I feel exhausted. David showed you exactly who he is. Again. At least now you know for certain that you made the right choice." She was right. But it didn't make it hurt any less. That night, I called Rachel Torres and told her about the meeting. "He actually asked you not to testify?" Rachel's voice was incredulous. "That's witness tampering, Sarah. We could add charges." "Don't," I said. "I don't want to go after David. I just want this to be over. But I will testify. I need to." "Good. Because with your testimony and that evidence, we're going to win this case." The holidays passed in a blur. I spent Christmas with my parents in Portland, avoiding social media where I knew David and Patricia were probably crafting their version of events. My divorce was finalized on December 28th, a quiet end to a tumultuous year. On January 3rd, I received a letter from Patricia's lawyer, Marcus Sullivan. It was a formal settlement offer. If I agreed not to testify, Patricia would plead guilty to a reduced charge, pay a substantial fine, complete anger management classes, and write me a formal apology. I read the letter 3 times, then called Rachel. "What do you think?" I asked. "I think it's a desperate move from a lawyer who knows he's going to lose. But Sarah, it's your choice. If you accept this, Patricia gets punished but avoids prison. If we go to trial, there's always risk. Juries are unpredictable. But with our evidence, I'd say we have a 90% chance of conviction on the assault charge. Your support means everything as Sarah faces these difficult decisions. Please subscribe to help us reach 1,000 subscribers and continue bringing you honest, compelling stories." ***. I thought about David's pleading face in the coffee shop. About years of manipulation and control. About the sting of Patricia's hand across my face and the months of rebuilding myself afterward. "Let's go to trial," I said. "I want my day in court." #Chapter 7. The Trial. January 15th, 2026. The day of Patricia Holloway's trial arrived with typical Seattle weather. Cold rain and gray skies that matched my mood as I dressed in a conservative navy suit Jennifer had helped me choose. "You want to look professional, credible, sympathetic," Jennifer had advised. "Let Patricia's expensive designer outfit work against her." The King County Courthouse was imposing, all concrete and glass, built to intimidate. I met Rachel Torres at the security checkpoint, and she gave me an encouraging smile. "Ready?" she asked. "As I'll ever be." The courtroom was smaller than I expected, with wood paneling and fluorescent lights that gave everything a harsh, institutional feel. Patricia sat at the defense table with Marcus Sullivan, her silver hair perfectly styled, wearing a cream Chanel suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary. She didn't look at me. David sat in the gallery behind her, his face pale and drawn. He met my eyes once, and I saw a mixture of regret and resentment there before he looked away. Judge Margaret Chen, no relation to my boss Marcus, was a stern woman in her 50s who'd reportedly built her reputation on being tough but fair. She called the court to order, and Rachel stood to deliver her opening statement. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," Rachel began, her voice clear and strong. "This is a case about power, control, and what happens when someone used to getting their way doesn't get it. Patricia Holloway is used to being. We appreciate you staying with Sarah's story through this intense trial. If you believe in the importance of justice, please subscribe to our channel. We're working toward 1,000 subscribers, and your support helps us share these crucial stories. Continue.